Plaintiff Jeree Walker is suing her boyfriend's cousin, Tamika Williams, for stolen money, bank fees, and breach of contract. Jeree says the defendant asked her to cash her deceased grandmother's Social Security checks and promised Jeree it was legal, but Jeree ended up being out thousands of dollars. Tamika says the checks were stolen and Jeree cashed them for her boyfriend, not Tamika. She's countersuing for harassment and damaged property.
All rise. The Honorable Judge Jeanine Pirro presiding.
Hello, James.
Afternoon, Judge. You may be seated.
All right, Jeree Walker is suing her boyfriend's cousin for stolen money, bank fees, breach of an illegal contract, and pain and suffering. And Tamika is countersuing her cousin's girlfriend for damaged property and harassment. Jeree, we will start with you.
All right. I'm not really familiar with Tamika like that. I mean, I know her through my baby's father because they're cousins.
Who's your baby's father?
Willie.
You're Willie?
Yes, ma'am.
How are you, Willie?
I'm fine, and you?
Happy to be here today?
Some way.
All right. Your baby's father's cousin?
Yes. They lived in the same household. And this particular day, I was visiting him. And he asked me to go to...
Your baby's father's cousin. They live together? You don't live together?
They used to live together.
Okay.
And this particular day, when I was over there, at the time, he asked me to go to the grocery store. Tamika and her mother volunteered to go with me. On the way going to the grocery store, Tamika was telling me she had her grandmother's Social Security checks. And it was time for them to pay their rent, and they short of their rent. And she was telling me she had these Social Security checks, and her mother called Social Security, and they were saying it was all right to cash the checks for funeral costs and everything else.
Who said they called Social Security?
Tamika and her mother.
Tamika and her mother say they called Social Security, and they say it's okay to cash a check of whom?
Her grandmother that deceased.
Of her dead grandmother?
Correct.
She's dead?
Yeah, she's dead.
Okay, so what do you do, pray tell?
In the bank, she signed the checks over to me like it was legit. Once we left the bank driving home, she kept saying, don't tell nobody in the house that you cashed these checks because I want nobody to know. Don't tell Willie.
Was that a clue?
Yeah, that's when I got home. I told him.
So what'd you do with the money after the clue not to tell anybody?
I called Social Security and I gave them a cashier's check for the amount that I put in my account.
You did?
Yeah.
So of your own volition, you decide that the money that you took from grandma's check that you deposit in your account, you're going to call the Social Security Administration and say, I took this money from grandma's account and I'm going to give it back to you.
Right. Nobody
called you first.
No one called me at all.
I'm impressed.
No one called me.
True.
That's true. No one called me because actually the next day I was working in the morning and she was calling me about the money. And I told her I was going to call Social Security to make sure that everything you saying is legit.
How much was the check for, Jerry?
It was 3 checks for $573 apiece.
What does Social Security come once a month?
Yes.
So she's dead 3 or 4 months at least.
Exactly. So when I left the bank, we driving home, I asked her, you sent me the money for the rent? Because I know y'all rent due today. She said, yeah. So I went to the ATM and withdrew $300 to put on their rent.
All right, Tamika.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good.
She's telling
You're not
a lie.
doing as well, let me tell you.
Well, I was just going to let her finish her little statement. I was going to interrupt her. But first of all, she's telling a whole completely lie.
Okay.
I called the Social Security Administration because he stole the checks. He stole the checks and had her put them in her account for his rent. I have a job. I work every single day. I called the Social Security Administration because he threw my door off. He broke the window, threw my door out in the room to get to the checks because he cashed his dead grandma checks before.
Well, you have the same dead grandma.
No. This is my cousin. This is my cousin.
Well, that doesn't mean you don't have the same dead grandmother.
We don't have the same grandma. We don't.
No.
He was adopted by my grandmother.
He's adopted by your grandmother.
He was adopted by my grandmother.
Oh.
His grandmother passed away in 2007. My grandma just passed away.
So whose check are we cashing? Your grandma's?
Yes, my grandmother.
His adopted grandma.
His adopted grandmother. He stole the checks to pay his part of the rent.
Okay, Tamika.
Yes.
When he breaks in, busts down the door, breaks down the window, do you call the cops?
Yes, my mother. I was at work when he did.
Where's the police report?
I was at work when he did it, so my mother called the police.
What do you want to say, Jerry?
I called Social Security. I have the cashier's check here that she signed. I mean, the check, the dead person check that she signed over.
Okay, we'll get to that. Now, criminal damage, What's the date on this thing? June 4th. When do you call Social Security?
I went in person. I called them the next day. I went
What's
in person.
the next day?
The day after I cashed the check.
What's the day you cash the check or the next day? Give me an idea.
It has to be like the 3rd because my cashier check is the 5th when I get them the money back.
So on the 5th, you give the money back to Social Security.
Right, because I get them death certificate
Let me see
saying
that.
she was dead. And to tell them to stop any future checks that's coming because obviously she's keeping these checks.
Okay, Jerry Walker, June 5th, 2008, cashier's check 1420, paid to the order of the Social Security Administration. Person making the payment, Jerry Walker, payment for Johnny Mae Williams, to repay an overpayment, $1,420. Where's the other $300?
I gave it to her at Walgreens for the rent that she's supposed to pay.
Okay, so
But the whole time the rent was
let
already
me ask you a
paid.
question, Jerry. You call Social Security the day after you cash the check. You got a weird feeling, and you say what to them?
I called them and told them the situation that this my baby father cousin had me put these checks to her account and she's deceased. They told me to give them the cashier check for the amount that you put in your account.
Okay.
I told them I gave her $300, so they said just give
Okay,
the
so
balance.
just give us what you
Right.
don't have. What happens next?
I went to Social Security and gave them the cashier's check.
Right.
And I showed them the death certificate because I had the death certificate of the lady because he gave it to me.
Who gave it to you? Willie?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Tamika. You report to the police that on June 4th, your house was broken into. Mm-hmm. Okay? Clearly, there's evidence here that this happens. Mm-hmm. All right? Were you receiving your grandmother's check at your home?
Yes, my grandma's her check come to her P.O. box, which he has the key to her P.O. box. He gives the checks to my mother. By her being deceased, that on the checks, they says if this person is deceased, check the little box and send it back in, which I did. Check all 3 of the box and sent the checks back to the Social Security Board.
Let me ask you a question. If these checks go to a post office box that he has a key for, why does he need to break into your house to get the checks?
Because he gave the checks to my mother. I got the checks from my mother to send back to the Social Security Board.
Show me evidence that you kept sending the checks back.
She have the paper that say that was checked off about the check.
I have the checks right here that she signed over to me inside the bank.
Let's see.
And Social Security Board kept sending the checks. They not knowing that she's dead. They sent the checks 3 times. I kept sending the checks back. They kept sending them.
I have a check, Johnny Mae Williams, 5108. Who signed Johnny Williams, Jerry?
Tamika signed that.
Oh, Tamika, you didn't sign your own name?
No.
Who's Johnny?
She signed Johnny because Johnny
That's
did.
my grandmother. Johnny Mae Williams is my grandmother.
Who signed that name?
I don't know. They stole the checks. So one of them probably signed the checks.
If I stole the checks, why would I pay them the money back if I stole the
Because
checks?
you thought you were going to get caught.
No, I didn't.
Because I called, when I found out that they stole the checks, I called the Social Security Board to stop the
What
checks.
the heck are you doing receiving these checks? Having them get not talking.
Because they
Having
didn't
them get them out of the box to bring to your house so you can send them back? You think I believe that?
I sent them back. They kept sending them back. Once I checked the little box and sent them, they kept
You know,
sending
there's a
them
part
back.
of me that believes it because the government's so messed up.
They kept sending the checks back. For some reason, I don't know why. As the box was checked off, her being deceased, they kept sending her checks back.
Paying
They only sent
deceased,
3.
not entitled.
It was 3 checks, Your Honor.
Okay, so grandma's dead 3 months and somebody's signing her name.
She signed the name over to me.
Wait, are you
I'm
saying you
very
saw her
legit.
write Johnny Williams?
Yes, she did. It's at the branch.
Willie.
Yes, ma'am.
Mosey on over to your baby's mother. What's the deal here, Willie?
It's a big scheme by my cousin, Your Honor,
Which cousin?
Tamika Williams.
You ever had any problems with the police, Willie?
No, ma'am.
Never?
Yeah, I had some run-ins. Some run-ins, but come on now.
No, you come on now. For what?
I was probably gambling on the street or something.
Gambling?
Yeah.
That's an old one. Okay. All right. When your adoptive grandmother died, do you know whether or not Tamika was getting checks?
Yes.
What did you do about that?
I couldn't do nothing about it, man. It was her grandmother.
It's your grandmother too. She adopted you.
I understand all that, but as far as her meal and I had nothing to do with that. Like as far as collecting checks and all that.
Now,
I was doing nothing.
But your baby's mom, Jerry here, only knows Tamika through you.
Yes, ma'am.
And your baby's mom is saying that she got involved with Tamika through you, and Tamika asked her to cash the checks, and that Tamika signed your grandmother's name. I can't believe for 1 minute that you didn't know about this.
I don't have the key to no mailbox. I ain't even in none of this.
Do you have any other evidence for me?
Yes, I do.
What do you have?
I have pictures of the windows that she bust. I have the pictures of the windows that he bust out of my house, the door windows, and that they think Jeree Walker bust the windows out.
Buzz windows. That's the name of my character.
Well, that's a new one.
Yes, that is.
Okay, here we go.
Your Honor, I was pregnant. 7.5 months in a hospital, preeclampsia, while she lying. She don't even have a vehicle.
I do have a vehicle.
All right, and this car, whose car is this?
Mine. She said that's not my car. I'm showing you the registration to my car.
Now, she damaged this in February?
Mm-hmm.
But your registration is September. The registration is September. You didn't own the car in February.
Yes, I did. The car was in my boyfriend's name.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Boy, the plot thickens on this one. Okay. All right. There's no question that Grandma was dead. There's no question that she was dead for 3 months. I don't know why we're still getting the checks. And honestly, I have to tell you, I want to believe Tamika. I really do, but I'm not so sure what to believe here. But what I can tell you is this. It is a federal crime to cash a Social Security check without a person's permission. It is a federal offense, and if you're found guilty of defrauding the Social Security Administration, you can go to jail, you can pay an enormous fine, you have to make restitution, and obviously it's felony, and you get a criminal record. You made the decision after you cashed the check, for whatever reason, the next night, because you probably couldn't sleep, to call Social Security and say, I think I cashed a check of a dead woman. And I think everybody's lying a little bit in this one. I really do. I think that at the end of the day, the question is whether or not the defendant is liable for breach of contract. You have the unmitigated goal to come into this courtroom and to sue her for breach of contract. You're both involved in illegal activity. You don't get any money, period, end of the story. You're countersuing for $1,000 for damaged property, and harassment is hogwash. You don't know who broke into your house. Did he do it? Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know why he'd break into the house if he had the key for the safe deposit box to begin with, okay? Plus, you didn't own the car that you say you own, so your case is dismissed. Your case is dismissed. It's an illegal contract. Stop cashing dead people's checks, period.